Thank you to our panelists. Okay, this is Louis Veit. I work for Upstream Intelligence. Hope everyone can hear me okay. We're about to start the webinar. As you'll see on the screens, there's a chat box which can be used to ask panelists questions throughout the webinar. And we'll try and get to those at the end. Hope everyone can hear me okay. Just type in the chat box if you can hear me, so we'll get started. We have had some technical issues this morning trying to get all our panelists onto the software. So I'll be acting as chairperson for the webinar, and as you may know, I'm organising the 4th Data-Driven Drilling and Production Conference taking place later this year in Houston, Texas, on May the 30th and 31st. This webinar is one of several we're doing to promote the industry and the key issues within it. Now, there's hundreds of you signed up today, so thanks very much for the great response, and thank you in advance to all our panelists for their time. Just a brief bit of housekeeping before we begin. The webinar will be about 45 to 50 minutes, and we are recording it, so we can send you the full audio recordings and the presentation slides within a week or so. You do have the facility to ask questions through the chat box, and there will also be live polls as we move through the webinar, and you can engage with those through the chat box also and the software. So the purpose of today's session is to hear from some of the leaders of the digital transformation, the key players in the move towards more data-driven operating models in the oil and gas industry. We will be discussing these topics from the perspective of a leading international oil company, an oil field service company, and an IoT cloud and analytics provider. Hopefully joining me today are Jim Claunch, Vice President of Operational Excellence at Statoil, Satyam Priyadashi, the Chief Data Scientist at Halliburton, and Chris Lench, the Solutions Manager, Big Data and IoT in Oil and Gas at Dell EMC. All of the organizations involved today will be speaking in Houston in May, so if you'd like to meet them in person, then please do join us there by registering at www.upstreamintel.com/data. Also, if you want to ask any of the panelists a question, don't forget to enter it in the box and we will get to them at the end. So let's begin with our first panelist. That is Mr. Chris Lench from Dell EMC. So Chris, we're going to switch the webinar to your screen now, and over to you.
Hi, Louis, can you hear me okay? I'm going to assume it's okay. So we're going to jump on. I've got about 8 to 10 minutes. I'm just going to jump right into it. We're going to talk about connected digital operations. I'm going to have a couple slides on just a quick couple slides on our strategy, quick slide on reasons, and I'm really going to spend more time on some use case examples. I've got about 5 or 6 slides looking at different companies, from smaller companies to larger companies, what they're doing around data-driven production and connected digital operations, okay? And then I've got a kind of conclusion slide that hopefully you'll like. Okay, so when we look at the strategy as it relates to Dell, IoT, and others, it's all around distributed architecture flexibility. The idea is we've got to be able to provide whatever is needed in the context of infrastructure, compute, virtualization, big data capture from the edge to the field to the core to the cloud, and that could be any version you like, whether you've got subsets in the middle, you got field offices. You've got to be able to utilize a distributed architecture flexibility to make your business run. And that's because you want to, number one, as it comes around DDP and connected digital operations, you need to generate and capture all your data in all areas. You want to make sure that you can perform real-time actions on that data, which you've been doing with digital oil field for probably about the last 10, 15 years. And then finally, where we're going now with the new machine learning, artificial intelligence, is how can you convert data into information and actionable insights? And I think I can see a lot from that from Satyam and Jim, who I'm really glad are on the panel with me today. So when we look at strategy, why are we doing this? And so, this is one of these slides that is pretty obvious, but I mean, we've been talking this forever. So we want to move from data cleansing and preparation. And this is just kind of a simple slide that shows this. It says, look at all the time we're spending here versus where we need to spending in action analysis. And that's one of the main reasons we're doing this, so we can create more value. But at the end of the day, this is maybe technical, maybe data, but it's all about the business, right? It's all about the business, all right? So everything we're doing is trying to enable better business. So when we talk about stuff, we talk about technology, we talk about data analytics, it's great, but we're trying to affect the business. We're trying to either improve efficiencies and reduce costs, improve production, and increase ultimate recovery, which is really big, and obviously improve safety and connected operations, enable people to make better decisions. You know, it all comes out of faster decisions, but with reduced risk. And the last thing around digital transformation that we're trying to do is enable new business models. So no matter what you hear today, and no matter what you're thinking about, it's all about business. We have to affect the business and make them better and make them improve their bottom line. So we're going to go into, again, a bunch of use cases. I've only got about 8 or 10 minutes, and I thought it would be more effective that I would just focus on 6 companies that are doing some really cool things in moving to the edge, IoT, connected digital operations, data-driven production operations, whatever you want to call it. So the first one I'm going to start with OSI. OSI, as most people know, was one of the largest pervasive data capture engines in the world. They've kind of got their platform all over the place, and they're moving to the next level of capability. So when we look at what they've got now, this kind of shows how they're connected to the remote assets, automation systems. So where they're going in the future is a really exciting thing. And I'm going to be blazing through a bunch of stuff, but I'm going to also provide you all this as slides later. So that's where we're going. But now where they're going, they're moving closer to the edge because they see, as everyone else sees, when you get closer to the edge, you can capture the right data, use the data effectively, whether it's analytics, whether it's applications, push only the data you need, again, within that pervasive distributed architecture model, up to a server to that next level of capability. We're really happy as one of our partners. We're doing a lot of things, not only at the edge, with our edge gateways, but also at the core with some of our infrastructure to make this really highly performant. The next company we're going to talk about is Pixel Velocity. Pixel Velocity, to me, is an exciting company because not only do they provide stuff at the edge, but they're providing that next level of edge capability around audio and video, right? And not only that, they have algorithms and models that keeps you from capturing and pushing these large-scale videos, and they actually keep them at the edge, and so you can look at them. And they're doing so much to improve the efficiencies, and they're driving out a lot of physical visits. They're improving the safety because people don't have to drive to these remote sites. If there's an issue, we can pop up the video, we can pop up the audio, or if an event happens, whether it's driven through intelligent alerts, through data, all these things can be integrated into Pixel Velocity. And to me, it's one of the true game changers that I see moving forward into the edge world. And I'm really excited they're part of our organization and part of our partnership program. The next company is a company called Lavoro. Friends of mine, Gino Hernandez and Eric Fiedler, they bought this company and they basically reformatted this whole company. They changed it into a leading edge company. They put edge. They've got all the things, whether it's around plunger management, LAC management, which is custody transfer, ticketing manager, all these kind of projects what they put in place. But they've taken their architecture and their applications and they've committed them and pushed them into a complete cloud native architecture, all around enabling the next level edge-enabled data capture, edge-enabled microservices, applications, and they've also added the next step, which is the master data at the core synchronization. And the core, what I see at the data center, right? How can we keep all this data in sync? How do we understand what's going on? And then they add the things that people need even more, complete reconciliation and reporting. Really cool. I'm really excited that they took this kind of older technology, rebranded it, reconfigured it into the next cloud-native architecture. I think they're going to be exciting, and again, one of our key partners. The next one, Arundo. I love Arundo. Their platform is amazing. The things they're doing in the next elements. Congratulations, by Arundo, by the way, if you're on the phone. They just got $25 million in Series A's. They're going to take it to the next level. The reason why I like Arundo is very simple. If people know me, I'm a very utilitarian person. I believe you need to give people the ability to be successful. Arundo does this in 3 key ways. Number 1, they provide you the access to your data. What's my data? Where's it at? How's it good? How's it working? Number 2, they provide you to your edge data. Can I put the edge of data? Can I enable the next thing? And number 3, actually 4 things, they provide this environment where your data science can do all these activities and then create these models and scoring and so on and so forth. And then what do you have to do with it? Well, then you have to expose it to the end user so the end user can actually use this in the context of business, right? It's all about business. It's all about the business, right? So that's what these guys provide to me, a true platform to enablement. It's small, it's intense, it's driven in Dell technology. I'm really excited. And here's an example of how they use it. They've actually created a new business model for a company. This company is one of the leading providers of large pumps. They've taken it where now that company not only sells those pumps, now they're supporting those pumps in real time, condition-based management as a service. And look how fast it took them. They had the OPC installed on the Edge Gateway, Dell Gateway, in less than 3 days. They've had their Edge agents up going a month, and it was still ready to go in next month. And at the end of the day, This is what digital transformation is about: leveraging new technology within data-driven production, connected digital operations to provide customers new avenues of revenue. Very, very exciting. Okay, so these are kind of some small companies, but it's not only the smaller companies, right? We look at SAP. We're doing a lot with SAP. SAP has Asset Intelligence Network, connected assets, where they're putting things out to the edge, and we provide a starter kit so people can get things, again, faster, better, quicker to make more value. Why do they want to do it? Condition-based maintenance, again. Condition-based maintenance, whether it's leveraging them, pushing it back to HANA, all this information is gathered and processed within the SAP environment to make that next level of capability from a digital transformation model. Really, really cool stuff. I was in a workshop last week, and quite frankly, I was blown away with what they're doing around next level of connected asset intelligence network, data, edge processing, and predictive maintenance. Really cool. The next company is Emerson, another very large company. They do a lot of work in the industry, and they've taken their model from a reactive to predictive. They're transforming their company to, again, just like the other company, condition-based maintenance, where they're really driving the next level of value through their data, their rich data they're capturing in real time to provide that next level of capabilities. And when you capture all this data in real time from many different sources, not only does it help that company, it also helps you. It helps you improve your R&D. It helps you improve your process, helps you improve your products. That, again, creates more value for the customer, right? Very interesting stuff that Emerson's doing. And the last one, which I thought was appropriate since Satyan's going to be talking, is what we're doing with Landmark. We're actually capturing data at the edge. And the cool thing about what Landmark is doing, they go in and say, basically, hey, what type of data aren't you capturing? What type of data maybe you have available at the edge that you're not using appropriately, or maybe you can create more value with it? We'll put our edge agent, we'll capture it with our production data. We can connect it then to the Landmark Earth, which is their large scale enterprise database, or their open Earth community models, and take it to the next level. That to me is really exciting, because not only do they doing the edge, they're doing the full-time core enterprise too. All right. So again, I've thrown a lot of stuff at you, and I just want to make sure you will get slides. So last slide is simple, right? Stop repeating our past. So tomorrow's Groundhog Day. So in honor of Bill Murray, who's a good man, I thought we'd mention it. I've been in business 30 years, and we're still talking about improving time on data, still talking about automated data processes. We need to get over this. We need to get to the next level. We need to treat data as an asset and manage accordingly. We need to automate data management and eliminate wasted effort. With all the new technology, artificial intelligence, automated cleanup processes, there's no reason we shouldn't be doing this. We need to increase the value of data and utilization in business. Again, back to their strategies. How do we capture all the data across the enterprise? How do we use the data in real time across the enterprise? And how do we take that next level, convert this rich data into actionable insights, right? So we all need to embrace digital transformation of your business. Stop repeating our past, right? And Ghostbusters, deliver data-driven production and connected digital operations today. I hope you liked my presentation. Again, I wanted to show you some real use cases that you can maybe see that other people are doing that you can apply to your business, and I truly thank you for your time.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for that presentation. I think it was a really interesting look at what Dell's been doing and where the future of the industry lies, and some great slides. Remember, everyone, we will get these out to you next week once we've got the recording completed. Now we're going to move on to our next presenter, which is going to be Jim Claunch from Statoil. So we're going to transition through to Jim now. So Jim, if you can, come online now, and we're going to move on to Jim's presentation.
All right, can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? Lewis? Okay, I'm on my iPhone, that's the only reason I asked. What I'm going to talk about, Chris got to talk about the fun stuff, and what I'm going to talk about is it's not about the technology. And if you look at the picture on the left, it's about the people. It's always about the people. And the technology, of course, it works. And everything Chris described, and the companies that have gotten where they've gotten, you have to deal with people, because people are what actually make all of this work. And the second one about leading people through change, this this isn't about managing. You know, this is about connecting with people and communicating and motivating people to help them understand what is coming, giving them a vision. And we've had several of examples of that within Statoil, where in the leader's mind, you know, what the change meant to the employee was just ridiculously obvious to us. And we learned something we already knew. The employees didn't see it that way. The employees absolutely saw it as a threat to themselves. And the example I'll give, one of the examples I'll give, is in our operations technology group in our U.S. onshore business, that in the past, they took care of absolutely everything. And so they took care of all the SCADA data. They took care of all the information coming in from our wells. They sent out text messages or emails to our people in the field and telling them what wells to go see and the whole 9 yards. And then we came along and we put in these remote centers where the SCADA data is sent up to the cloud, and we take that data and we run analytics on it. We push it graphically to screens and all the way down to the people in the field's iPhones. And so we took that responsibility away from them. And then right behind that, we came along and said, oh, by the way, you guys used to be accountable for all the security around OT, and now we're going to get IT more involved because of convergence of data. And now IT needs to play a role in this security. Well, to them, we had taken away 90% of what their job used to be. And when we sat down and talked to them and said, yes, you're not doing those things anymore, but your accountability is that the sensors are physically working and that the data we're getting from the sensors has to be accurate, or else we're going to be running analytics on garbage. We'll be doing machine learning on garbage. And so, although, yes, we've taken away this 90%, this part that is your value creation now will create more value for the company than all the value you created in the past working the way that we used to work. Now, again, that sounds ridiculously obvious, and it was to myself and the other leader, but we didn't tell the people. We failed to tell them what their value proposition was in that. The other thing I would say, you know, in Chris's presentation, there was a lot of great examples of automation and using automation data to drive different decisions. Well, another change that we've seen that is really, really critical is when we're doing these digital sprints, and they're no longer like our SAP days of the past where they're 2-year projects and then you deliver a huge bomb or a huge success at the end of 2 years. Most of the sprints that we do are 10 to 12 weeks. And so we try to tell people to fail fast. In fact, I try not to even use the word fail anymore. I try to use the words, you know, when you didn't get what you expected. Because we need a culture of where we get into these sprints. If we learn after a couple of weeks that the data isn't good enough to do what we think that we're trying to accomplish, we need to shuck that. We need to just scrap that project, move on to the next one, and then take learnings from, you know, why we shucked it and continue to drive improvement quickly. So this idea of fail fast is really critical. I would say, you know, in creating a culture of fail fast, what goes right along with it is learn faster. The other thing I want to talk about in terms of leading people through change is this isn't managing people through change. This isn't like managing tasks. And as we lead people through change, you know, diversity looks really different, you know, because some of the skill sets that we are bringing into oil and gas, they don't look like oil and gas people of the past. You know, whether it's software engineers or data scientists and people earlier in their career that are digital, we've got to have leaders that create an environment where all of these different skill sets now come together to create a business outcome. Because if even going back to Chris's presentation, those business outcomes, when they involve analytics and AI or software engineering in some of those, the people that are working on that part of it have got to be part of the ultimate business outcome, and getting leaders comfortable with empowering people that they don't understand how they work, they don't understand Python, they don't even necessarily, they may not necessarily even know about the details around OT. In fact, they probably don't know the details. They may not even understand the full power of cloud computing. But getting leaders to be comfortable with a different type of diversity and empowering them towards a business outcome, and then getting out of their way. And I think it's a big, big shift in leading people through this change. And the other thing I think is important in leading people through the change is, I think as leaders, whether we're directly deep into the technology or not, we need to understand the so what of automation and digitalization and what it does for it. Yeah, the what and all the technologies that we get to look at, those are, a lot of them are really cool. But what we're doing isn't a science project, right? The so what is about better business results, safer working conditions for our employees, and reminding in the guidance we give these empowered teams to stay focused on the business outcome. But as a leader, because I'll use myself as an example, I don't understand how to program with Python or those things, I have to trust them towards the business outcome. The last thing I'll talk about in going through any change is, you know, WWIFM, what's in it for me? To the extent, and if you go back to the example of our OT people, we failed to address that with the people that were impacted, right? We didn't touch what's in it for me. And I think that I have seen this as we continue to move more digital, even with our engineers, who in the past, you know, most of their data resided on their computer or on an Excel spreadsheet, and, you know, a lot of their perceived value by themselves was in they had the data and they knew how to manipulate it and they could give the results that people were looking for. And so now when we come along and say, hey, look, we want that data up in the cloud so that everybody can see it, and we actually want to pay you to be an engineer. We don't want you to be a data tech anymore. Believe it or not, you know, we've had to re-explain that, because the power for some of these people, and for a lot of people, was in the data. It wasn't about their analysis necessarily. They were spending 50 to 60% of their time aggregating their data, and then 30 to 40%, again, just aggregating their little and analyzing their piece of the data. Now we're asking engineers to be broader. We want you to spend about 10 to 15% aggregating or understanding the data, and we want you to spend 85 to 90% analyzing or reviewing exceptions from the machine. So, you know, I think there's many examples of great technology implementation today, and I see it all the time. I see it in Statoil. I see it in a lot of our peer companies, and I think sometimes we forget that it's actually the people that are going to make this happen and make it work and make it stick, because work processes change, their accountabilities change, and so I appreciate you guys listening. And to sum up, I would just like to say, let's not forget about the people as we go through this technology implementation journey towards transforming the oil and gas industry. Thank you.
Am I live? Okay, thanks, Jim. Thanks for that presentation. I really enjoyed that. And it was interesting to hear about how balancing the challenges between implementing the new technologies and balancing the needs of your existing workforce and making sure everyone's happy. I think that's really important. The what's in it for me element is something I think I fully agree that isn't addressed enough with all of these new technologies and these dramatic changes underway in the industry. So thank you for putting that through. So just a quick note to everyone, we tried really hard to get Satyam on the line, but we can't get hold of him. I know he's in Brazil, so he's probably has some difficulties at the moment using his connecting to the software. So we're going to move on to the polling section. If Satyam does come on, we'll add him on, but we're going to just have to move through to the polls because at the moment he is unreachable. So on your GoToWebinar screens, you should have a poll available to you. We're going to go to the first polling question, which is, we're just launching that now. Sorry, bear with me. Is that going out? Okay, so the first poll is going out, and the question is for everyone: what is the biggest barrier to digital transformation? Oh no, sorry, that's the second poll. The first question is, where is your company on its digital transformation journey? A, not started. That means I guess you don't have a digital program or use big data analytics or IoT throughout your business. B, in progress. You employ some digital technology and may have dedicated teams working through the digital transformation. Or C, established. You routinely use IoT and data analytics at most levels throughout your business. And D is transformed. Digital technology is fully integrated into the operating model of the business and active at all levels. So I don't think many people will be in the transformed section, but I guess you've got another 10 seconds. Everyone just get your answers in quick while we collate the responses, and we'll see where everyone's at. Okay, we're closing the polls in 3, 2, 1. All right, we're going to close it now. Share the results with everyone. So let's see. Well, there you go. 28% are in the not started category, 50% in progress. So most people in progress. That's good to see. 9% of the listeners out there are fully transformed, which is very impressive. So let's go now to our panelists. I'm going to bring Chris and Jim, and we're going to bring you both back online to the conversation. So what do you think? What's your experience? Do you think, what do you think about, first of all, that 28% of companies have not even started their digital transformation? Is that your experience on the ground, guys? Chris, Jim?
Jim, why don't you go
first?
Go
ahead, Chris.
Okay. I'll jump in. So, the first thing that people always want to know is, what do you actually mean by digital transformation, right? So I have definitely seen, this seems about right. It's always kind of, crossing the chasm, fast followers, laggards. And it's good to see that, to me, 72% of the people are actually doing something. It's kind of a bummer that after 15 years of digital oil field and 3 to 4 years of cloud enablement and IoT, that there's still 28% of people that aren't doing anything. But, with the recent downturn the last 3 years, a lot of it could be understood. So I've personally seen a lot more people in the in progress, and a lot of the reasons they can't get to the next established and transformed model is there's so much different technology, whether it was Hadoop, whether it was a data lake, a data stream, where are we going to go next? And now we've got Kafka, we've got Pig, we've got Hive, we've got artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, and sometimes, we get caught up in all these words as opposed to my favorite saying in life as it relates to digital oil field is just do it, right? Do something. Exactly what Jim talked about. When you start doing something, you learn how to do something else better. It's okay if you don't fail. It's okay if it's not great the first time. The enemy of good is great. Some people say the enemy of great is good. But even if you want to get to the point where you've got something good that's allowing you to eliminate a lot of the wasted time and focus on your business to impact your bottom line so your stock code goes up so you can retire early is what we all want to do. So my only thing that I can say is don't worry about the buzzwords. Exactly what Jim said. Don't worry about the technology. Start something, improve it, make it happen, and you will be amazed how much value you will create and how much fun you will have along the process.
So, what I find very interesting about this, I would agree. I'm a bit surprised at the 28% number at this point in time in the journey. What I find interesting though is from my perspective, 9% seems like a really high number of transformed data fully integrated into our operating model. And what I mean by that is, Chris said it at the beginning of his comments, what's the definition of transformed, right? And to me, what I see going on within oil and gas is we're doing a lot of automation, a lot of analytics, a lot of artificial intelligence down the traditional silos that we've built into our organizations, right? So for example, you've got a digital effort going on in the production space. You've got a digital going on in automated drilling or autonomous drilling. You've got something going on in completions. And my definition of transformed is that we have a data-driven, fully integrated into every single thing we do. And that includes how we meet, how we work. Email won't be around, that we are using other collaboration tools, that everything we do will be transformed, including our HR processes, and do we rent versus buy our core competencies. And so I think 9% seems really high by my definition of a fully integrated into our operating model. I would agree that I do see some companies that have data fully integrated into, say, their production operating model or their drilling operating model. But when it comes to the whole life cycle of the well and how they're actually running analytics and artificial intelligence along the value chain, and they have automated and digital people processes supporting all that, I myself haven't seen it. And I think just to reinforce what I said earlier and what Chris said, I mean, just go for it in sprints. It's no longer about long projects. Divide things up in 8 to 12 weeks, and we've learned so much. Whether it's robotic process automation or production operations, we've learned so much just by trying something.
Yeah, Jim, you're exactly right. And the first part you mentioned about there's a lot of point solutions, but we're trying to say, look, this needs to go from the edge core. And leverage a cloud, right? So everything you're doing at the edge is going to impact your core data set. Your core data set should impact your edge data set. You should leverage a cloud in whatever way possible. That's going to be true digital transformation. It's good that a lot of people are doing a lot of point solutions, because point solutions turn into bigger solutions. And you're exactly right. Just go for it. Just try something. You'll be amazed.
All right. All right, thank you guys. Thank you guys. I think we're ready to move now on to the next polling question. We can just set that one up. So now we're going to get into, I guess, the key talking point, which is what are the barriers? What's holding us back? You know, what are the things that's stopping oil and gas from charging forward, embracing digital, and becoming truly data-driven industry? This is the question, everyone. You can access it now through your webinar system. So what is the biggest barrier to digital transformation in oil and gas? A, technology, B, organizational culture, C, investment or financial resources, and D, skills shortages. So those are the four options that we have, E, other, which is miscellaneous option. So now, I guess as Jim was saying, it's all about how you define the digital transformation. So it depends what definition you're using, but let's see what responses we get. So go on, you've got a few more seconds to keep submitting your answers for that poll. We'll just give it another minute or so, let everyone submit, because numbers are still changing. All right, we're going to close it in a few seconds. You undecided people, just quickly make your choices. Ready? And 3, 2, 1. Right, we're closing the poll. So let's get the results in, and they're up. Okay, you should be able to see them. So, oh, well, look at that. Very strong result for B, organizational culture. See, that throws into key focus what we've been talking about today, especially the things that Jim's been talking about, how important it is to have your culture lined up to deliver the promise of the new technology. Look at that. Hardly anyone's picked technology as the key barrier, which says a lot. It links back to what Chris was showing earlier on when he literally demonstrated the potential and the possibilities the technology already has, if only we were all, I guess, running with it as fast as we could be. So let's go back to our expert panelists, and maybe Chris, we'll go back to you again and see what you think about that. I mean, it aligns very closely.
If you're going to call us expert panelists, Chris definitely needs to go first.
Oh, Jim, come on. I'm definitely not an expert. I tell people, I like to have fun, enjoy life, and do great work together. That's my three things in life. So, I've been lucky to be working in oil and gas since I started in 1987 with Amican Production Company in the mainframes and pushed distributed computing and web. And then for the last 15 years, I've been focused around digital oil field, connected digital operations. And I can say unequivocally that organizational culture is absolutely the number one issue. Some people like to talk about investment and financial resources. Well, the ROIs around digital oil field, and if you look at the things that I presented, that, like, for example, that one company that increased their revenue by 5% by implementing a condition-based maintenance as a service, there's so many resources around investment and financial ROI that you can absolutely put a business case together internally to make that happen. And if you can't, let me know, I'll help you, because that to me should be a non-stopper, right? But organizationally, it's always, and some of the things that Jim talked about, obviously, but even in a down cycle like we are now, it's even harder because there's such good ideas out there, but it's like people get a little bit timid about change and about you bringing in change because, number one, how it's going to impact them directly, or number two, how it's going to impact them in terms of why didn't you know this? Or how come you didn't do this already? And that kind of things. And those kind of things always, they grind on people. So you have to be cognizant of that and approach it in a nice way, in a way that helps them be successful. There's a saying, if you're ever in sales and business development, companies pay, people buy, right? And so you have to be cognizant of that person's personal gain or loss and address it, or that organization's personal gain or loss and address it in the context of what you're going to do. So come in, do a change management, but don't get carried away. I've seen so many projects get carried away with too much change management, where it's just change management in cycles, and get people engaged, make them part of the process. It's not your success If you come in as a consultant and you're successful, it's not your success, it's their success. Make them successful, right? But it's absolutely the number one thing is organizational culture, and you've got to find that connectivity to the people that do the work. And then clearly the number one other thing you need management support. You need someone who's in charge of a P&L, profit and loss. If you get the people that's responsible for P&L or a big, organizational change or like a digital oilfield project, and they've got the capability to make it happen, they're the kind of people you want to work with too. Okay, thanks.
That's, Chris, it's interesting. Last year, I spoke several times at different engagements about leading in the digital age. And this year, the engagements where I speak, I'm going to speak actually about a transformed oil and gas organization. And I believe there's three main barriers. And the first is the C-suite. I think that, obviously they're the top P&L holders. And I think all of the companies have approved some type of digital journey. And the challenge is very few of the C-suites in the oil and gas industry fully understand the transformative nature of digital and what it can do and what it is capable, how it is really capable of transforming every aspect of our companies. And I think the second group that is a real challenge is people in say the 11 to 20 year experience time frame. And a lot of those people are people that we have called talents, and but if you really define them, you would define them as they're the ones that get stuff done. And the real challenge is we're changing the boxes on that group of people, because no longer is it going to be acceptable to do the things the way that we used to do them. And so what we need from that group isn't as much about getting stuff done. And we're talking about pretty senior people that are managers of sometimes very big groups. Is what we're talking about is we need those people to lead. We need them to motivate. We need them to connect with other people. We need them to connect and be able to handle a diverse workforce that includes, data scientists or software engineers and people that just work digital and just solve problems differently than they do. And so I think that, they've moved along in their career very, very well because they've checked the boxes we've put in front of them. And now those boxes are changing because a lot as a generation, the real transformational generation is, it's down into the 15, 16, 17-year-olds. I mean, if we're looking out into the future. And so how do we teach that group of people that have a lot of domain expertise, leadership skills versus management skills? And I think the third thing I would say is we need HR groups. A lot of HR groups in our industry are zeroed in on process, and they monitor and they implement processes. I don't think there's ever been a more important time for our HR groups to be strategic and look at other industries and see how digital has transformed the core competence, and how many of those core competence do they need, and do we rent versus buy. And so I think I see those three kind of big picture areas as barriers, and they impact org culture, they impact investment in financial resources, and potentially they even impact skill shortages. But I think also from an HR perspective, if we don't learn from other industries, we're going to have too many people, because the machine and AI are going to be making more decisions. So those are the three barriers I see that I'll be talking more deeply about throughout the year.
Jim, this is Chris. That was excellent. I mean, you hit it all right on the head, and I really appreciate that answer. I learned a lot from it, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
I just want to second that. And I'm sure all of our listeners, we've got literally hundreds of people who tuned in today, guys, and you've really addressed the topics at hand, with great detail and character. So thank you very much. Thanks for sharing your insight and your knowledge with everyone. We really appreciate it here. Now, if anyone's got questions, write them in now. But we haven't got much time left. We've only got 3 or 4 minutes to the end of the webinar. So what I would say is, for people who would like to ask questions to Chris and Jim, email them to me, put them on a LinkedIn, or come down to the conference 30th and 31st of May at the Hilton Houston Post Oak Hotel, where we'll be addressing these themes in a lot more detail at the Data-Driven Drilling and Production Conference. So there's one, I guess, quick point I'd like to raise. We've got 2 minutes remaining. Is that it's something Jim Crompton, who is former Chevron, said he wrote a book actually with one of his one of his colleagues called "The Future Belongs to the Digital Engineer." And I wanted to ask you two what you thought the digital engineer is going to look like. Because it's sort of an interesting concept. Is the digital engineer human? Is it an augmented human? Is it machine learning and advanced artificial intelligence working in harmony with people? So I guess, how would you guys define the digital engineer? That's the last question of the day. As I say, everyone listening, feel free to write your questions in the panel, and we'll try and get to them. If not, we'll send them to me, and I'll pass them on to the speakers. But guys, last question for the day: what does the digital engineer look like?
This is Chris. You would leave us with a hard question, wouldn't you? So there's 2 things that are accelerating in the world today. Number 1 is information and data, and number 2 is technology, CPU, and those kind of things. Luckily, the CPU and those areas will be able to manage and make more value, actionable insights, artificial intelligence stuff out of the data that the engineer is going to be using. So the digital engineer of the future is definitely going to have a lot of augmented reality, whether it's wearables, where they should be able to, in real time, in a collaborative model, work with their folks to make changes, and whether it's a predictive maintenance, whether it's a safety issue, where they can look at their as-built in 3D, they can take it apart in many dimensions, they can put it back together, they can look at historical data. It's not going to quite be like Minority Report, like probably not for another 15, 20 years, but it's definitely going to get there, and it definitely should get there. With the stuff we've got available about augmented reality, we're going to be there, and it's all going to be about using data in much more and information in much more actionable models. And I also think the digital engineer of the future is, they're not going to allow all this stuff that we're screwing around with to happen anymore. I think they're going to demand good data. I think they're going to demand real-time data. I think they're going to demand actionable insights and artificial intelligence. And that's just going to be part of the day-to-day business, and that's the way they're going to work.
What I would say is, I don't know what it's going to look like 10, 15 years from now. When I look at how fast technology has moved in the last 7, 8, 10 years. But what I do believe is, we had in the past, the golden ticket was a domain engineer, a production engineer, reservoir engineer, whatever, and an MBA was the gold standard. And I think we're done with that. I think where the engineer of the future is going to be one that has domain expertise with mathematics or statistics or data science, and have the ability to solve problems in a totally different way that will transform the way we work. They don't enable digital, they are digital. So that's what I see in the near term.
Great, thanks. Thank you, Jim. And Chris? Have you still got Chris?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, I'm here.
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yep,
Chris. Yeah. Okay. Good. As everyone, how long have we got remaining on the cast? I think we're okay. Yeah, we've got 1 minute left, Chris. If you want to add anything, or Jim, want to add anything to the end, or to wrap us up? It's the last minute we got available.
I would just say thank you.
Girls.
Go ahead, Chris.
Go ahead, Jim. Okay, I'll do it. Look, I just want to. I'm a very action-oriented, go-get-'em kind of person. So I'm like, do it. I mean, just get after it, right? Try things. I mean, as long as it's safe, try it. I mean, and you will learn so much, and you'll improve. I've always been a big believer of Deming's total quality management philosophies, and just try it, get better, improve it, do it again, and will see incredible results. Jim?
I would say thank you to everybody that stayed on the line throughout. I really appreciate it very much. Secondly, I encourage you to come to Data Driven Production when I talk about a transformed oil and gas company, because I know I'm wrong. It's going to be directional and kind of a vision, and I really want to be challenged, and I really want to learn from everyone on this call about what it looks like to them and how we get there. So thanks for listening today.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, I'm sure I speak on behalf of all the listeners today when I thank both of you very much for your interesting, provoking, and engaging conversation you've provided today. It's a real shame Satyam couldn't join us, but we will be sending out the full audio replay and the slides from the presentations within a week or so of the webinar. And to colleagues who signed up but were unable to attend, you can let them know that I'll also send them the recording and the slides when I can. So that's all there is to say. Like I say, any more questions, you want to continue conversation, please send them to me and I'll send them on to the speakers. Other than that, we hope to see you at the 4th Data-Driven Drilling and Production Conference in Houston, as Jim said. And I'd just like to thank Jim and Chris once more for providing such a great insight today. And thanks for spreading the knowledge as much as possible. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. All right, goodbye. That's the end of the webinar. Cheers, guys.
Bye. Thanks, have a great day.